Well, we made it to the mid-season finale of Young Justice Phantoms, entitled Breaks My Heart. Not only had we reached the exciting conclusion of the Sentinels of Magic storyline, but many big questions were answered. The fate of Fate, Klarion, the team, and more importantly, the place of Vandal Savage all converges in a series of events that redefines what chaos and order really mean. Plus, we get a new kitty cat, so bonus points. Let's dive into the latest episode. But before we do, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for all the updates. Also, we have this huge giveaway. We're going to give away a PlayStation 5 at 25,000 subscribers. All you need to do to get in on the giveaway is be a subscriber and leave us a comment. Also, while you're at it, if you're a Young Justice fan, make sure you check out the affiliate links to both Season 1 and Season 2 of the companion comic series down below. It fills in all the gaps for the show, and it's something as a fan you really want to know. Well, I have to say, I really have enjoyed this first half of Young Justice Phantoms, and this week we did see the conclusion of the Sentinels of Magic storyline. Now, this episode basically followed two main threads, and some major reveals and new story seeds dropped at the end of the episode. There are some major future implications for the show. So let's not waste a whole lot of time and dive right in. To kick things off, the Phantom Stranger takes Vandal Savage to both the Lords of ChHaos and Order. Now, Savage pleads this case of balance on Earth and how he has really helped cultivate it, and now Child is actually breaking that balance he created. The Lords actually believe that Savage is to blame due to his alliance with Darkseid, but you know Vandal Savage, he's a stubborn cuss. And he actually really does make his case and convinces them that Darkseid is the ultimate villain, and that he really does threaten all balance in the universe with the anti-life equation. He actually refers to it as the holy balance. Now, we will get back to this discussion in just a moment, but let's just say 50,000 years of trying to be convincing pays off pretty good for Savage. Now, when we left off the last episode, we saw Klarion arriving in the school bus with the kids and Zatanna's team all converging on Child, and this is exactly where we pick up. Now, we'll circle back to the school bus soon, don't worry, but right now we're going to focus on the main story. Now, one of the most curious things that happens here is Klarion and Nabu finally team up, despite Nabu's objections, but we need to do something first. Klarion needs a new familiar, and they actually find themselves a new cat to bond with Klarion. Now, this is kind of funny because Klarion is so odd, but ultimately we have a new Teakle. Now, all the magical forces at play converge with a final encounter with Child and Flaw. And this is where Savage and the Lords of ChHaos and Order come in. Now, Savage's plan with Darkseid is looked upon as unbalancing the two, but he explains that his path will result in a showdown between the two worlds, and that will maintain the balance required. Ultimately, the point that Vandal Savage makes about Darkseid destroying everything with the anti-life equation is agreed upon by the Lords, and at this point, the Lords of ChHaos stop backing Child, which means they basically remove all that extra power she has, making her vulnerable to attack. Now, she's still a Lord of ChHaos and no pushover, but she's nowhere near as superpowered as she was before. This leads us to that final battle between Klarion, Dr. Fate, and all of Zatanna and her students. And let's just say a lot happens in this battle. Everybody gets their moment to shine in the battle, each in their own way. Child is still quite powerful, and actually rains down fire upon everybody. Now, while this is going on, Zatanna protects her crew, and Mary actually begins to go toe-to-toe with Flaw, which is pretty amazing. But rather quickly, she starts to get overwhelmed and draws more and more power from around her, ultimately putting her team at risk, almost taking them all out. Now, the battle takes a rather interesting turn because of Tracy 13. Ultimately, she wins the day for everybody. Now, this is where her bad luck magic actually comes into play, because Flaw has a flaw, and the bad luck of the flaw causes a bigger problem, which ultimately destroys the anchor and banishes Child. The team really came together to get the job done, and even Dr. Fate remains impressed with the students. Actually, he compliments them, and if you're a fan of Dr. Fate, that doesn't happen much. But this is where things start to get interesting. We have two pretty big events that happen here, so let's break them both down. First, Zatanna finally deals with Mary and what's going on with her siphoning magical power. Ultimately, she benches Mary, and Mary does not take this well. returning to Fawcett City rather angry. The second big thing that we get out of all of this is we have a new Dr. Fate. That's right, the mantle of Dr. Fate has been passed, but has been passed to multiple people. We have several Dr. Fates now. This was probably my favorite part of the episode, because Zatanna actually proposes to Nabu that her father Zatara, Khalid, and Tracy all share the mantle of fate, rotating on a weekly basis to stay fresh. Considering the idea to have logic, Nabu agrees, and ultimately we get a very, very emotional reunion between Zatara and Zatanna. Now there are some concerns. Tracy doesn't speak up, but Khalid feels like Zatanna might have actually played them in order to help save her father, but Zatanna does deny this. Now Mary was not included in this, and we just did a video on the possible paths that Mary could be taking, and boy were we right. I've actually linked that video down below, you should probably go check it out. But the short version is, Mary is crushed, and the lack of faith and understanding from Zatanna and the team just kills her. Now, she has clearly crossed that line, several times as a matter of fact, but she truly believes her actions are justified. Now when we catch back up with Mary, we see her sitting on the ground by a boom tube entrance in Fawcett City, crying in the rain. And we hear a voice. Now we never see the face for this voice, but I believe this was actually Granny Goodness. She continues to point out how the team doesn't have faith in her and how they really are trying to hold her down, ultimately egging her on to say the magic word, to which Mary gives in and transforms into Sergeant Marvel, leaving us wondering what will happen next. Now I have to say, that is a phantom. Now speaking of phantoms, let's talk about Connor Kent for a second. That's right, we got a tease for Connor Kent. Now as the episode was closing out, Zatanna tried to get an understanding of what happened to the people on the bus, and she magically connects with it. But when she does, she sees Connor's spirit not at rest. Now this was super fast, and it wasn't very clear or concise, but we may have actually seen Connor alive here, even though Zatanna thought it was his spirit. If I'm making a guess, this wasn't his spirit. This was actually Connor stuck in the Phantom Zone. For me, as a fan, this gives me some pretty serious hope that Connor Kent's not dead, but obviously we're going to have to wait till the second half of the season to find out what's happening here. This is more of a clue on this character than we ever got for Wally West, so I have hope. Now, on the downside, we have another bad cycle for Beast Boy. Garfield is now a total loss. Even when Princess Perdita visits him, his depression isn't phased. She almost immediately recognizes his pain and anguish because she has had her share of personal pain too, and offers to help Garfield. But Beast Boy still seems not interested, and when she discovers his addiction to pills, she makes it clear she won't be put on a break like The Outsiders or Space Trek. Sadly, he promptly shows her the door. This is just getting worse and worse for Beast Boy, and I'm now at this point waiting for this to reach critical mass. Finally, we had the school bus. The school bus played a big part of this episode, and the bus story got fully resolved and pretty much answered all fans' questions and concerns. The children all being returned home was pretty nice, but more interestingly was the fact that Diana Lance had actually been counseling all of these students for a decade, all while keeping their secret the whole time. That's right, they were returned to their own timeline in the past. It was a pretty perfect and emotional closure to that little subplot, and I have to say, I absolutely loved it. Now, we'll do a finale video on this in the next week or so to do a full recap of the bus. It's been such a popular topic on the channel, and I wanted to touch on it just one more time. Now, ultimately, we're going to give this mid-season finale a 9 out of 10. It was a great mid-season finale break episode, and had some real emotion from the characters, along with those cliffhangers that left us absolutely craving the release date for the second half of the season. That hasn't officially been announced yet. Many people are speculating towards the end of March, and I feel like there's a pretty strong possibility of that. Also remember, we have that Keep Binging Young Justice hashtag campaign today. Make sure you're a part of that and help us get Season 5 greenlit from HBO Max. This is how we all save Earth 16. Also, while you're at it, make sure you check out that full playlist of Young Justice content that I've linked down below. And be sure to check out those comics that we linked at the beginning of the video. This will give you a nice little fill of Young Justice until the show comes back for the second half of the season. In the meantime, tell me what you guys think. How did you like this finale for the Sentinels of Magic storyline? And of the 3 big story arcs for the first half of the season, which one was your favorite? I'm not gonna lie, by a mile, it's the Magic story for me. Sound off in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you press like, click subscribe, and if you don't ring that bell, you're not gonna get any updates. Peace.